Okay, y'all had a lot of really good questions. Thank you for participating, and let's go ahead and jump on it. The question that there's so many questions. There's so many questions of this. Doom Eternal, the DLC. Yes, of course I'd love to work on it. What kind of question is that? I'd totally go for it. If they came to me and were like, hey, we want you to do the Doom Eternal DLC music, I'd be like, let's go. Let's talk terms. Let's do this. Good people behind that game. I can't think of a better group of people to work with in the AAA industry, for sure. Okay. Dave Austri asks, if Sam is pregnant and go into Morph Ball, what happened to baby? Yes, this man runs New Blood Interactive. Okay. So there's a photo underneath that shows what happens. So, okay, I don't need to answer that one. Love you, Dave. Marky Music asks, pineapple on pizza? Totally pineapple on pizza. In fact, pineapple on pizza with jalapenos on it. And not pickled jalapenos either. That's weak ass shit.
I don't like soft ass shit.
You gotta get raw jalapenos with it. Those two together. It sounds fucking disgusting, but it's awesome. What are the most fun tracks for you to work on? Combat, Ambient? I'm super curious. I like them both. They're equally fun for different reasons. Combat's great if I've got a bunch of anger and angst and tension that I need to get off my chest. Ambient's really good for creating a 3D visual for the player and creating an environment. Like maybe you start on a beach or something like that, and you want to set a tone for them because it's some kind of weird murder mystery game or something like that. You can find things around the area to maybe blend into the music. It's hard to explain, but I like them both for different reasons. Tone is one that comes to mind for both, but yeah. What's your take on the loudness wars? We as a band master our music less loud to keep dynamics and enhance the listening music experience. Do dynamics in game soundtracks matter? Does the mix need... Okay. Loudness wars is something that, if you're not familiar with it, it's whenever the music basically gets just pulled straight down onto a limiter so that all the dynamics that you normally have with records is completely clipped off. Generally, that will lead to digital clipping. My take on the loudness wars is I don't really think it's so much of a thing anymore. I think that you'll see it every now and then with certain cases, but it's not nearly as prevalent as it was. I'm sure it's still really there for pop music and some mainstream like rap music, because it's just how much bass can we throw onto this and compress the mix as hard as we can. And the same goes with some game soundtracks. But as long as it's not digitally clipping, if you want to compress your mix, compress your mix. These days it's fair game. Anybody can pretty much do anything they want as long as people like it. So sky's kind of the limit as long as you're not creating ear fatigue. But as to me, what I think of the loudness wars, I like my mixes a little bit more dynamic. Most of the records I put out are pretty dynamic. I do go a little heavy on the compression on some of the combat stuff, but that's only because it needs to just be just crushing your stereo, at least in my opinion. But yeah, that's my take on it. What happened to the DUSK OST on vinyl? Long silence for a while now. It's still coming. I actually just asked Dave about this last night, and he's allocating a bunch of his resources right now to the Nintendo Switch port version of DUSK, which he should. I feel like that comes before any kind of physical goods or any kind of, well, just really any kind of physical goods. It's a better look, in my opinion, and I think he feels the same way. So it'll be there. Just let us get the ports out first, so that those players can enjoy the game as well. And if you've got a Nintendo Switch, you can grab it there too. Joe Siegler asks, beer? Yeah, it's only been like 5 fucking years. Now I probably owe you like 30 beers. So, yes. Whenever the Corona stuff's over, sure, man. Billy Kahn, hey Billy, asks, Ibanez, ESP, Schecter, or Jackson? I've owned them all. Well, if I was able to turn the camera, you'd see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different Schecters over here. So I'm gonna have to go with Schecter. And there's a American Special 5-string P bass that I bought recently, but Schecter for sure. Billy is a engine side programmer for it. Good dude. Would you ever try to remake the Quake 1/2 soundtrack? No, not really. IDKFA was just something else. Like, it's just a thing that I just wanted to do at the time. I thought it was cool to be able to take MIDI music and update it and make a mod for it, because I didn't know how to map, and I wanted to be part of the Doom community, and Doom was everything to me, and that was how I got into the community, more or less. So no, I don't think so, even though I've dabbled on that a little bit just because I thought it was fun, and I really like Sonic Mayhem stuff, and obviously Trent Reznor's stuff. I think that's great, but I don't think it's something that I want to pursue. How do you have such a thick guitar tone, and what is your process for creating a new track? The thick guitar tone, some would argue that and say it's thin as fuck. They're wrong. The thick guitar tone comes from quad tracking, and what that means is tracking twice on the left speaker and then tracking twice on the right speaker, and sometimes I'll put one actually blended in the middle too, so you'll have 5 guitars all playing the same thing. And then bussing that and compressing it and adding EQ, however you're gonna do after that. But playing the same thing over and over and over again, and then mixing it all together, all those tracks together. That's how I get it really thick. And I mean, like, you can use Marshall, you can use Mesa, you can use whatever you want. Most of the time, whenever you start quad tracking like that, things just start sounding good and beefy, and you can kind of just sculpt from there. It's not a issue of I don't have the right high gain amp or whatever. It sounds pretty good and it's workable most of the time. What is my process for creating a new track? I'll give you a little bit of an answer with that. I'll start with a riff most of the time, or a drum beat, one of the two. Most of the time it's a riff, and then I'll build things around that. My best friend Jason asks, will you be wearing pants? No, of course not. I'll see you on Hunt Showdown later, you son of a bitch. What are some of your favorite game soundtracks that you didn't work on? Ooh. Really liked the Mankind Divided soundtrack. That was a really good one. The Wolfenstein New Colossus was a pretty great soundtrack that I enjoyed as well. Skyrim. And I think one of the biggest ones is Hitman Contracts. Jesper Kid has a lot of influence on me. It shows up in ambience and it'll show up in actions, but a lot of time it'll show up with some of my ambience when I want to get a little creepier. That man is the master of creepy tones, and I really wish that the Hitman franchise would get him back on board with that. And if they don't, hey, I want to help, you know. Like, I like what they've done with Hitman 1 and 2. I think it's awesome. I think it sounds great. But if they want to try something else in the future, I'd love to help with that. Anyways, your work has inspired me, and I'd really love to see your methods in depth. Can we get a comprehensive list of your equipment, software, maybe some of your techniques? Cheers. I can't give you all that right now because I'm kind of cutting this together in between projects, but I'll give you a quick little rundown, and I'm glad that I inspired you. That's awesome. The list that I have that I use the most of is mostly a Native Instruments Complete 12, I think we're on now. So I'll use a bunch of those synths and some of the drum stuff from there. GDD makes drum sets as well for VSTs that I use quite a few different drum sets from them. As far as guitar sounds go, let's see. Native Instruments Guitar Rig 5, and recently a Line 6 Helix. Really enjoy both of those sounds. Some of the pedals that I'm using right now, actually on some of the Proteus stuff and on Nightmare Reaper recently, is a Exotic Effects BB preamp and an MXR Smart Gate going straight into my RME UFX interface. And that's for the 8-string stuff that I do. I'll normally scoop the bass out and kind of put the tone, roll the treble up a little bit for the 8-string because they're really mid-rangey, so I feel like I gotta kind of compensate because the second it hits the pedal, it just feels like nothing but mid. So I have to kind of somehow just roll the treble back up, and it gives it a little bit of a gain boost going into the preamp. So once it hits that emulation, it already sounds like it has a little bit of girth to it. What project or accomplishment do you think really broke you into the gaming industry as a video game composer? Oh, gosh, you could put that on 3 of them. I would say Rise of the Triad, the remake in 2013, IDKFA, and probably Dusk. Those are the 3 big ones so far. I mean, like, from Dusk, I got asked to go work on Quake Champions, so there's that. Follow up: as someone who's trying to pursue similar ventures, what can I do to get my name out there? Just create quality stuff. If you create quality stuff and you put your heart and soul into it, and you work with maybe some people who are just as passionate, you're gonna make something really cool, and some people are gonna start paying attention. It's finding those people is what's hard. But finding the right people, have the right head on their shoulders that are just as driven as you, maybe with an engine side stuff or maybe 3D art, it helps a lot. And all 3 y'all's names will get out there. You just gotta work together as a unit. That was what worked for me. Is it difficult to go from heavier songs like Departure to Destruction to softer songs like Ethereus? Would you say one is easier for you than the other? No, it's totally easy. In fact, I look at it like a palate cleanser whenever I was doing those 2 games side by side. Dusk was like, just a bunch of energy, while a Medieval was just this crazy space that I could explore with whatever I wanted to. So a Medieval was kind of the palate cleanser to the heavy metal that was Dusk. Well, I say heavy metal, industrial craziness that is Dusk. So, no, it wasn't difficult at all. In fact, it was awesome. It was fun. Who do you get for the vocals in your music? Most of the time, actually all the time, that's just what's called VSTs. It's sample-based stuff that you can program in choirs to say whatever you want most of the time. So it's all done in the box. What track did you have the most fun remaking? Which one are you the most proud of? The track that I had the most fun remaking, I think, would be probably Deep Into the Code from IDKFA. And I'm gonna base this all around IDKFA. I think that's what you're talking about. That one was fun because I was like, this totally feels like Slayer, and I'm just gonna have a blast with this. The one that I'm most proud of, I think, is Deep Into the Code, because it's such a different look on that song with the guitars that I put in with the tremolo effect kind of mimicking the ARP synth or the sequence synth. So that's the one that I was most proud of with that, and I still go back and listen to that like, man, that worked out. My favorite video game and video game soundtrack. I don't really have a favorite video game soundtrack, but right now, my favorite video game that I'm playing the most of, besides Doom Eternal, I mean, like, that's a given, is probably Hunt Showdown. So Doom Eternal and Hunt Showdown, I kind of trade back and forth on those. On Departure to Destruction, was that an 8-string tuned down half a step? You know, like, honestly, whenever I did that, that was a long time ago. I don't remember the exact tuning with it, but I think it was like, I'm pretty sure it's an 8-string down half a step. I believe you're right. Yes. In fact, the last time I think that I was trying to mimic that on my 7, I'm pretty sure that that was the conclusion that I came to. I'm sorry, I can't check that out right now, but I'm pretty sure you're correct. What is your creative process like? Do you find that inspiration hits you at random and then you act upon it when it strikes, or do you have a tried and true method to get into creative flow state, or possibly a combo of both? It's completely random, and that's what sucks about it. And I think most people will tell you the exact same thing. So you just kind of wait around for inspiration to show up. Now, you can do things to make sure that that shows up, but that's completely different for everybody. Some people it's riding bikes, some people it's drinking. It used to be drinking for me, not anymore. Some people I've even heard crazy stuff where they're like, I'll go and watch just nothing but Martin Scorsese films. I'm like, God, those are like 3 hours long each. Jesus Christ. So it's different for everybody. Mine, I'm still kind of digging around and finding new outlets. It used to be drinking alcohol because I could get super loosened up and just ideas would show up. And nowadays, I don't really need that. I just kind of work and ideas just show up, and good art really motivates me more than anything else. What's the best way to drink whiskey? Neat. I have a question. How metal is my guitar? I love Explorers. I have one. The reverse headstock weird thingy at the top I'm not the biggest fan of, but it's pretty cool. It's very unique. It's metal. Yeah. How many guitars do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 5 guitars and 2 basses and 2 guitars that I have no idea where they're at. I think they're over at my old bass player's house, I believe. The Bearing the Trend albums will show up again at some point, but I'd rather go back and find time to remix the last one that we did first. Which OST? The OST that I've worked on that I'm most proud of, I don't think I can pick one out of that. I really like them all. They're all different directions. If I had to pick one that took the most work conceptually front to back, it was probably Dusk, but I don't think I really have a favorite, you know? Ever going to do an IDKFA too? I don't know, maybe. Gosh, not anytime soon. There's so much work right now, but it's still on my mind. Half-Life soundtrack remake, when? Never. I love the Half-Life soundtrack. What kind of pickups do you use? This is gonna sound really weird. I don't really swap out pickups whenever I buy a guitar. I buy a guitar, I like everything that's there. It's really rare that I'll swap out pickups. That being said, I have started looking at some bare knuckle stuff, but everything's been stock so far. Everything's right here. It's all in your hands. You know how they tell you, like 90% of your tone for your guitar comes from your right and left hand. There might be something to that. What is the most fun style of music for you to compose? Like ambient soundscapes. They're really super fun. At least recently it has been. Being able to kind of put the player in a soundscape that matches something on the screen, or maybe doesn't even match and just kind of messes with them. So much fun to me. Is there any chance we'll see an official release of your work on Quake Champs, or is that something only up to the folks at Bethesda? Bethesda owns that music. I would love to see it in a physical release form, but that is up to them. Trust me, there's nothing more I'd like to see than being on an album with Chris Vrenna. Like that would be awesome. That would blow my mind. But yeah, that's Bethesda's property. They own it, so that's totally all in their court, and they can do whatever they want with it. When you work on music for a game, are you given the complete game, or do you tend to compose tracks that the rest of the game is being made? Normally I like to work alongside a level designer and kind of make music as they're designing the level. Like once they get their foot kind of wet and how a level should go and the flow and their ideas. They kind of feed them off to me, and then I'll start building music around it. That's traditionally how I like to work. How it's been recently is a little bit different, just from developer to developer, where they'll either give me artwork or they'll just give me some notes to work off of, and I have to do my best to give them something that that feels right for the tone. So it can go a lot of different ways. How did the garbage can meme start? So I think whenever we first put out the DUSK trailer, like the initial announcement one, I also put out the track Endless, but I think Endless was used on that trailer, and I remember, I think it was that one, where I said something to the extent of, one of the first comments was like, nice trailer, but the music's garbage or something, just because I like self-deprecating humor. That's funny to me. And someone in New Blood Internal, or a couple guys, just ran with it, and they just kept sending me meme after meme after meme of like, your music's trash, your music's trash. So it just kind of caught up. It just kind of spiraled from there, because I always thought it was funny. I was just like, yeah, sure. Yeah, it's garbage. Are the trash cans bigger and more comfy at Bethesda? I don't work for Bethesda. Not yet. Let's go out for a drink when the stupid pandemic calms down. Next year at QuakeCon. What would you say your biggest inspiration was for getting into game composition specifically? Luck. Like, honestly, I just kind of wanted to start working on stuff for a Duke Nukem 3D remake that Frederick Schreiber was working on at the time, and he let me just kind of make music for that for a while, and then it just spiraled out of control from there. It wasn't something that I was always like, I want to do this. It just, I kind of fell into it, and apparently I was good at it, so I just kind of kept going, you know. Hey Andrew, Dusk 2 win. I hope soon down the line. That would be cool. If you could play Doom, why aren't you? Can I has? What software do you think is the best out of all that you use? It's kind of a loaded question. Persona Studio 1 is an easy one, because that's what I use to capture everything, and it's been the easiest to use DAW I've ever used in my entire life. If you want to start working on music right now, you can go get a free copy of that from, I believe it's presonus.com, Presonus, and you can just start working right now. And all their stuff is drag and drop. You don't have to learn a comprehensive UI. It's pretty simple. It's a musician's DAW. That's why I like it. Do you primarily create in the box, or do you also use analog gear when creating? Depends on your definition of analog gear. I don't ever really run anything outside the box for compression or anything. I used to. I felt like that process, unless I've got like a 500 series, it's just kind of a waste of my time, because VSTs do it super well nowadays. I mean, it's hard to tell the difference. I also used to have a Mesa Boogie Studio preamp, because I was obsessed with the sound from Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets, and I went as far as to find one and buy it. And this correlates into what you're talking about. I had that for years. I loved it. It sounded amazing. It's just like this old Mesa Boogie rack preamp that was just sounded so thick. And then I came across a VST program that emulated that so well that I couldn't tell the difference. And that's when I was like, well, which one's more flexible? And I could say the same thing about certain other compressors. One of the ones that comes to mind is an 1176. Had the analog version of it, mess with it for a while, love it, it's awesome. I'd love another stereo pair, but some of the emulation that's done with it inside the box is, I'd much rather just put it on a bus and go, you know? How fast can you work and get to the result that you're looking for is what I look for more than anything else. So mostly in the box these days. Outside the box, the things that I do use outside the box is going to be like synths. I've got a couple more behind, and a bunch of pedals, drawers of pedals. But yeah, that's mostly the out of the box stuff. I think that about wraps it up. I've got quite a few more soundtracks coming out that the work's finished for a good portion of them. You should see some of those this year and next year. So you got some stuff to look forward to as far as music. Yay! Thank you very much for sending me your questions, and thank you very much for still supporting me and still following my music. And I will see you next time. More music to come very shortly. Take it easy.